Alright, so in the last video we did the setup to where we cannot switch to the wall unless we have placed a foundation such as this. And then it auto switches for us when we go back and forth. So now we want to do a little bit of optimization. So this is not being called constantly, and this is also not being called constantly. So we want that to only really fire once. So we're just going to have a control boolean that controls both. So if we come over here, we need to set up a boolean. So bool b, and let's think of a name. So we have set mesh 2 and return mesh. Let's call it b returned mesh. And this by default is going to be true. So what we can do is come down to our set build position where we call return mesh to selected and do a check. So if b returned mesh is true, or sorry, is false, then we want to return mesh to selected, as well as set b return mesh to equal true. Then we come down here to set mesh 2. I'm going to do another check. So if b return mesh, we want to set the mesh, as well as we want to set b return mesh to equal false. So that way, these are only going to be running kind of alternating one by one. So let me actually comment out any of these logs that I have set up. I don't think there's any more. And we're going to give that a test. So let's print out the function name, like so, and like that, and restart the editor and recompile. Alrighty, let's look at our output log here. Press B, set mesh 2. Oh, cool. I just realized a bug with that. So what we could do, as well as, So if I play and press B, nothing appears down there in the log, but when I look down to where it hits something, then it goes set mesh 2. So when we have set mesh 2, we want to disable the cycling. So I press F, return mesh 2 selected, set mesh 2, and return. So it's going back and forth, and that's fine. So it's not continually calling it. So we want to make use of this boolean as well in our cycle mesh function. So what we can do is if b return mesh, if that's the case, we can perform all this. Otherwise, we do not want to be able to do it. And I'll explain why here in a minute if that logic confuses you. So I press B, and I cannot scroll wheel anymore until I'm up here, in which case I can go back and forth. So I'm at the wall, and it switches, and everything as intended. So that's working. So what we're doing is when we try to cycle the mesh, we're doing a check. So if b return mesh is true, meaning that we returned it back to the index that we wanted, then we know that we are back on the building. We can actually build with it. Like we can make use of it. So that means we can cycle through the other building meshes that we have to make use of them. So that's the reason for that. Anyways, that's really going to be it for this video. I just want to go ahead and do a little bit of optimization to improve that so it's not constantly doing that pretty much on ticks. So it was originally doing one or the other essentially. So yeah, that's going to be all for this video. And if you like what I'm doing and you want to support me, you can find a link to my Patreon down in the description below, where I have a team deathmatch series just for patrons, as well as you get early access to pretty much all of my videos, such as this one. If you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to join my Discord server that's also linked down below, and I'll try to help you out. So, I'll see you in the next video.